If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio. That guys, but we have the blue line to separate everything. So I described everything else to you, but what we have here, the same line from women, meteoric rise, get to 18, and naturally we can see whether this guy is on the male advantage curve or not. Look at the gap. These women here have egos off their teeth. Okay, they're thinking that their shit doesn't stink. This guy's going to be a future multi-millionaire. They're looking at him like he's just some bum on the street. Okay, oh, you don't deserve me. I'm too good for you. Why are you even talking to me? Oh my god, go away. Like, that's when you get all of that shit, okay? It's pathetic, it's embarrassing, but look, you have a fucking meteoric rise like that. How are you going to learn anything? So I don't blame women. Guys, welcome back. In this video I want to do a breakdown of the male advantage, but I want to show it to you in a visual form. So I've drawn up a couple of these graphs, not saying that they're the best thing that I've ever done, but I drew them up quickly. It will give you the idea of what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay, but we can talk through it. So this graph is a normal male life, alright? So I think we got blue. This is what a normal man will live through. So I'll break this down to begin with. On the left we have level. This anything below this is high, anything below this is in the average bracket, anything below this is in the low bracket, and then of course anything above this is just extra high. You know, this is when you're at a very elite level. This line here is the fitness line. This is what level of fitness that you're at. This is the wealth line, as it says. This is the male advantage bracket. This is the age in which it appears, at which it aligns. And this is, of course, age. Now, age is just consistent, so that's just moving steadily up that way. The reason I'm aiming it up as well is because I believe with age, from, let's say, the difference between 18 and somebody who's like 38, you definitely do get better with the amount of stuff you know, your experience, your maturity, all these different areas of life. So I do see that as a gradual climb until maybe like up here when you become senile and whatever, but it doesn't really matter, okay? You do tend to become better as a person along the way. And down here we have age with a few of these tagged. So this is 18, and obviously you can see these faint lines going up. You've got 25, 30, 50 and 17. Now they're not to scale, they don't look too bad, but they're not to scale, so don't judge me on that. This is just to get a visual representation of what I'm talking about. So with the normal male life, what we have is obviously age is just a consistent. You go through the male advantage here, it's just consistent all the way up through till 70, okay? But here's what the average man does. The average man, of course, money-wise, up to around about the age of 18, it's very tough. It's very tough to get any money in. And up to the age of 18 here with fitness, naturally your body's just going to grow, it's going to get better, you're just naturally going to be at kind of some decent level by the time you get to 18, which as you can see is like the upper limit of average, which is pretty much what every guy sits at, the upper limit of average when they're in their youth, okay? Now, what we tend to get for the average guys, we tend to get this kind of gradual linear wealth increase where with each passing year their wages go up a little bit until they hit around about peak earning years are like in your 40s going into your 50s. So around about this bracket here is when they break through to, you know, they break through to high here around about 36, 40 years old, which makes sense because it obviously is the peak earning years. And then it just gradually rises up into this section up here. So they do pretty well for themselves. But as you can see, when they reach this line here, around about 50, when they really break up on through, in terms of what I would call your money is beyond your age. Okay, so if you're 70 years old and you're making 100 grand a year, that's not that impressive. If you're 18, you're making 100 grand a year, that's very impressive. Okay, so if your wealth line was here at 18, well, that's super impressive. Here, it's good, but it's not too great, okay? Because your age has diminished. You know, you've got this male advantage here, the advantage of youth, so to speak. And by the time you get to here, 50, that's kind of your best years are behind you, and your money's only really, yeah, it's come up, but it's only really got into that upper echelon at that point, which isn't great. Now, if we look at fitness, we get to 18, as we said, decent level. Most men will probably naturally just pack out to some extent, and then it will just level out as they go through their late 20s. Here is where it begins to change, okay? You cannot go out and drink like a fish. You cannot go and get pissed every night of the week, not train, eat junk food, whatever, and maintain this kind of just above average level that you can do in your youth. Your metabolism starts to drop, your hormones begin to change, testosterone begins to take a hit, and as we can see, most guys, by the time they're approaching 30, their body is worse than their age, if that makes sense. I think you guys are getting it by now, that this is kind of like the FTSE 100, you know, where you've just got this consistent line. You know, when people say outperforming the market, well, that's basically what that is. Age, you've got to outperform age, which is the kind of consistent line that isn't going to change. If you can get above this line at any point, well then, you know, you're killing it, because you're above what you should be for your age. It's kind of the average. If you're below this line, you're not doing as well. As we can see, these guys break up through when it's kind of too late and they've missed that male advantage. And it's the same here with fitness. They're above it because naturally all of us start up here in terms of fitness. You know, it's very hard to be 18 and out of shape. If you are, it's probably your parents' fault. But you kind of get to this level and you come crashing through here, and most guys just have a complete deterioration until the day they die. And they never really get back in the gym. They just think, by the time they get to this point, they're like, what is the point? I might as well just head this way now. I'm never going to be in shape. These guys have got better genetics than me. What is the point? Okay, now the aim of all of this is to tie fitness, wealth, and age together to kind of correlate at one single meeting point, which is the male advantage. Okay, now you don't want to be below this. You kind of want to be up in this bracket. I mean, look, this can go on forever. You can draw that as high as you want, sort of thing, but as long as you're kind of within that range, you know, preferably around about here, as long as you're within this range here, and you've got good wealth, you've got good money. I don't know why I'm colouring this in, it's kind of fun. As long as you're making really good money, you're still youthful at this time, and your fitness is going to obviously be naturally high. Let's say you can pump it up here, say your wealth crashes through here. Well, then at this point here, you're talking about your peak, your male advantage, okay? But a lot of guys let that slip, and that's the problem. Now, what you can do is, you know, you can have a, you know, this is the best case scenario in life. You can be Justin Bieber, where you can kind of just get this up to maybe like there when he had that six-pack that one time, and your wealth is like here, and the thing is, you're like 22 years old, so you're in this kind of bracket, which is even better, you know, to some extent. Obviously, if he had really gone for the fitness thing, like, let's say somebody like Michael B. Jordan right now, I think the guy's like 32, but when he was like 28, he was doing Creed 2, and he got in some ridiculous shape. And I think obviously his wealth was skyrocketed through here. His fitness was at an elite level, and the guy was like here. So he was like 28 years old, whatever. Like, it's even better. But that's the thing. Most guys before this kind of age are broke. They might be in good shape, but they just don't have any money and stuff. And it's no money means no assets, no career aspirations, no ability to look after children, etc. And they really struggle. Now let's take a look at this same graph with women included. Okay, so what we've got here is the exact same graph with women included. As we can see, women have this meteoric rise. They skyrocket up here at the age of 18. They kind of hold on to that until around about their late 20s, and then it slowly dips. They can obviously prolong this a little bit longer, whatever. A lot of black women seem to hold out a lot longer than white women. Same with Asian women, seem to hold their beauty for a lot longer. But then it kind of just plummets, and there's not a lot that they can do at this point. There's obviously outliers to the rule, but the majority of women will just plummet through this line. By the time they reach this point here, okay, then they're becoming on par with these guys, the average male. So they're reaching this level. And when we see the next graph in a minute, you'll understand why these guys become important. So as they come back through and they find these guys again, they start pairing off with these guys. Oh, he's wealthy enough for me to be with. You know, oh, he's in the same sort of shape as me. These 2 points here, or this kind of cross-section, if you would, this area is second marriages. Okay, so these women have probably been divorced by the guys that were up here and moving forwards this way. And what you get is you get like second marriages around about this point here. And this is when people pair off with the person that they rejected 10 years ago, but he's always been a nice guy and he stuck around long enough, so she was like, hey, you'll do now. As she plummets into here, as his fitness drops, they kind of move together. And yeah, he might earn some extra money moving up here, but in terms of the way that he looks and having somebody here, you know, actually having a woman that's roughly on his level, it works really, really well. And these two people are great pairs. Now let's go and take a look at a traditional male advantage lifestyle, like an outlier male. Okay, so here we are. We've got the male advantage one, and you can see a clear difference already. So what these guys tend to do, we got the same thing, fitness, age, and wealth, whatever. Age isn't going to change. It's going to just follow this trajectory on up. We're going to start at the exact same level, you know, as all guys do. By 18, it's roughly the same. I didn't check the two graphs, but I think they're about the same. But what these guys do now is they see an opportunity, okay? From 18 to like 30, they're really focused on their fitness, and they just drive this home. They just have linear growth, and by the time they get to about here, if we draw this down as straight as I possibly can with a mouse, we're looking at about 27, 28 years old, which is the most dangerous age for men, and that's what I told you guys before. Because if we look down at the wealth here as well, we can see that, you know, it's following a similar line, but what the guy is doing here, who's an outlier male, is during this whole period, which is very similar to the other guys, but what he's doing here is he's investing. He's putting his money back into ideas, okay? So it's low, as is the other guys, but he's putting his money back into crypto, stocks. He's putting it into housing. He's investing it into a business idea. He's really saving as much as possible, investing as much as possible, so that later on down the line, he can take advantage of these sort of areas here. And what we get now, we get this exact section here, where, yeah, his wealth is below kind of this line, which isn't ideal. It's probably slightly further away than somebody who's just kind of followed the normal trajectory, as well as just, you know, the one I showed you earlier where somebody is just following that normal life. Every year their wealth increases and they kind of get to there, or maybe it shoots up through there but it's too late. Well, this guy, you know, any woman that's just met this guy would be like, God, he's in shape. He's young. He's roughly my age. You know, he's perfectly prime, ready to have kids. And he's worked on something great. He's showing ambition. I think he could do this. And that's what she's eyeing up, okay? And that's why so many women love ambition and potential. And when you combine it with fitness as well, that's why I say to you guys, this is the most dangerous age, because this is the first year that men really start to... This isn't the male advantage yet. This is kind of 30, because your wealth needs to come up to really be in that advantage stage. But as we can see here, we're maybe 4 years away from it. Okay, so it's 3-4 years away from it. So it's the first sign that you really get that things are going to take off, the tables are turning, and the value of women is starting to decline, and the woman's just realized that, and she's thinking, hey, if I jump on board with this guy, he looks as though he's going places, I'm currently at a level where I can get him. When I'm declining, hopefully he'll still love me into, you know, the later years. What tends to happen, however, is this guy, maybe he gets with this woman, whatever, you know, maybe he stays single, but the majority of guys will probably get with a woman here, marriage, kids, mortgage, whatever, and their wealth will probably naturally go up, maybe into like this bracket here. Their fitness might maintain, may drop because they've got kids and whatnot, but they're still going to be at a decent level around about here, you know, maybe in this kind of bracket. And, you know, this whole area, basically, let me get rid of this. They might end up in this kind of bracket, let's say, as a combination. Something around about there. Okay, and this is kind of early 30s to like late 40s, and this is the divorce zone. Because as we'll see in a minute with women, when they come down here, it's probably the biggest gap that will ever appear between a man and a woman. Okay, it's the same gap that a man and a woman will have, like even this outlier male, okay? Here and here at 18. That's very low as a ranking. He's average to very low, okay? Whereas a woman, forget wealth and whatever, she's just naturally there. Okay, so the gap between these two people, let's go for the happy medium, is about that large. Okay, and even an average guy, like I'm saying here, that gets to this point and does well, messes his life up by meeting a woman, settling down, he's still going to end up around about this zone here. You know, let's just shade this a little bit. He's going to end up somewhere around about here. But a woman at this point, she's going to be down in the other half, okay? She's going to be down in probably that bracket. Let's draw it across maybe about there, okay? Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And as we move across, it'll probably be dropping down around about there. So we've got, let's say, here. That's like the biggest gap that will ever be between this man and this woman. Okay, so there's a very high chance that they're going to get divorced at that point because he just wants to move on to bigger and better things because his value's still increasing, or maybe it's going that way, whatever. But what an outlier male does is he sees that his wealth is about to shoot up. His fitness is at an all-time high. He maintains it very smartly, and his wealth just skyrockets because he's put that investment in. He stays tie-free at this point. So he stays away from kids, marriage, mortgage, all the shit, the cars, whatever that I've told you guys to avoid. He gets into his 30s. Maybe he takes one day off a week, weekends off, whatever, like I'm planning to do. Maybe stream platform might decide against that, but who knows. And then you start skyrocketing up here because obviously you've made the correct investments. You've got more time because you're not with kids and you're not married, etc. You know, you're not throwing away these big lump sums, and you end up getting towards this zone, which is, look, number one, you're in the male advantage zone now, okay, where your wealth is high. Let's get rid of this so we can see it a bit better. But when you get into this zone, you can see, let's go up a bit higher, let's draw it here. There we go, you can see now that your wealth is high as soon as you enter this zone around about 30. Now, it could be later, it's just a guideline, guys. You just have to make this zone. It's like a 20-year gap where you're going to kill it in life. And you can see that your fitness is on a good level. Okay, it's the highest it's ever been. You're maintaining. You're at elite fitness level at this point. You know, and then here we've got the ultimate peak. So the ultimate peak is a combination of elite fitness, elite wealth, but it's also the youngest age that you've been while you've had both. Now, granted, you can have, you know, you're going to kill it here too because you're coming up the ladder. You're in great shape. And you're only 32 years old. You know, that's why this peak isn't too important. You know, it might be 1% better than here or something like that because you're an extra 200 grand a year richer or something like that, and you can do a little bit more. Or maybe your investments have skyrocketed and you've gone from having 100, 200 grand a year coming in to now you're officially a millionaire, you know, up here. Like that could be the difference, okay? But your fitness is staying relatively the same, you know. And we can also see over here, this is another good one to look at. Let's say you got here and there, let's say something around about that range, okay? It's almost like the richest that you've been, in a sense. I know it's going up there, but it's almost like the richest that you've been within this zone, whilst fitness is still high. Okay, so this is like the upper limit of kind of both at the same time. So you would assume this was the peak. The only problem is when we draw down, okay, this guy is probably, what would we say, 46, 47 years old, which is still fine, guys. It's still fine, okay? It's not a problem at all. It's a great age for a man. You see people like Idris Elba and whatever. They're all like around this age. They're still killing it, okay? But they are celebrities. They have an extra notch on that belt. But a woman would much rather, a young, beautiful woman is what I'm talking about, would much rather be with, let's say, this guy here, because he's 32 years old, than this guy who's actually richer. Oh, sorry, let me get rid of that one. Than this guy here who's richer, but still in the same shape, because he's around about 44, 45 years old. You know, that's quite a big gap for a woman. That's like a 13-year gap. You know, she's obviously going to prefer to be with the 32-year-old than be with the 45-year-old. And like I said, that's a giant gap. But this entire zone is going to be fantastic for men, and that's your aim. That's what you got to get to, and your entire aim in life, okay, is to obviously enjoy yourself, do what you want to do, but you kind of should want to experience fitness, youth, and wealth all at the same time. Now, I used to think that all of that happened in your 20s, and I remember saying I want to be a millionaire in my 20s because I want to know what it feels like to be in shape, wealthy, young, handsome, whatever, all as a combination. I didn't really realize until I'd done a lot of research that this male advantage bracket is much more likely where it happens, and you're probably much more likely to have a masculine physique. You're going to be a better person, probably going to earn a lot more money, so I just came to the conclusion that this is the better bracket at this point. This is, if you were going to add everything up and create an average, then this would be the highest average total, okay? This would be when a man collectively is at his best. So yeah, he's not as young, maybe he's lost his hair or something like that, but at that point, he's never been better. So let's do a visual example. Let's say here, he's in fantastic shape, he's 25 years old, very young, super attractive, loads of women want him, got a full head of hair, but he's broke. So what the fuck is she supposed to do? She's 25. We all know women mature quicker than men in the early years. She's thinking marriage. She's thinking kids. She's thinking a mortgage. Well, this guy down here can't afford it, which means he's not ready for it. Okay? So that's a problem. So what does she do if she's 25, 24, around about that range? Well, she looks at these guys. She's eyeing up this guy who's ready to blow. He's 30 years old. It's only a 5-year gap. Maybe it's 4 and a bit with the months. She's thinking he's still in fantastic shape. This is a much better option. And this is why the male advantage gets picked so much more often. And even here, if she met this guy, she might still be inclined to go, it's only a 10-year gap. This guy's at his ultimate peak. A lot of women want to kind of get the most out of a man. So if she is kind of 25, maybe she wants to be with this guy here. But again, there's rarity levels, because this guy's still earning in an average bracket. He's just about to skyrocket if she can see that potential. So that's a very good option for her. But visually, this guy would be another level. Okay, this would really tempt her. 25 or not, 21 or not, that would visually tempt a woman. Okay, but women tend to go with a maximum, I think, a 10-year age bracket, a 5 to 10-year age bracket, ideally. The perfect scenario, a 25-year-old gets with a 25-year-old man, and he's here and here on both. But as we know, most guys aren't. Look, wealth down here, body's on the way up. He's not quite a man yet. At this point, he is, but his wealth's still low. He gets to kind of this age, his wealth is high, and his body's good, and he's still pretty youthful. He's 32 years old. He's in the male advantage. If he can keep that going and stay in his peak for the next 15, 20 years, then he's going to kill the game, and he's still got the possibility of attracting these young women, which we'll bring up in a minute, and I'll show a graph. But one thing I want to touch on is this zone here, in my opinion, when you're kind of, you have the combination, the exact male advantage year of youth, you have wealth, and you have fitness, all as a combination within this one little section. I think this is the time to maybe settle down, because I think that's the best possible woman you'll ever be able to attract. I think in terms of beauty, sex appeal, whatever, she might be like some 25-year-old supermodel, and I think with high value, obviously intelligent, etc., everything that comes with that, I just think that's the perfect time for guys to settle down around about 36, because here you're financially secure, your wealth isn't going anywhere. If you did it here, it's a little bit uncertain. I mean, you could get that and then that, like that could happen, or it could just stifle off, which isn't very nice to see. So I think at this zone, you've built that body, you've maintained it for this many years, it's going to be quite easy to maintain until you're around about here, like as we can see. That's not too low a drop. Okay, they're still in the high bracket, you'll still look fantastic at 50. That's a good 14 years of maintaining that fantastic body. TRT, you can maintain it a little bit longer. But your wealth isn't going anywhere, you're pretty much protected. Now, this could shoot off up here. The reason I curtail it off is because most guys here will have kids, get married, whatever. Like, I don't recommend marriage at all, but they might have kids, get a mortgage, whatever. The bills go up, you're spending more time at home with the kids and the wife or the missus. And naturally this is going to happen, okay? You just, and in a way, guys, so you should. If you get to this point and you've made millions or hundreds of thousands, you've invested it well, and you only have to work 1 or 2 days a week, then you should enjoy it. This should happen. You know, you don't want to work until you don't want this to shoot up all the way until you're like 70, and then next thing you know, you die and you've done nothing with your life. It's not a good way to do it. You want to get into the male advantage, really enjoy like 6-7 years of just playing around, playing the field, really traveling, enjoying your life, and then bang, here, make a decision. What do you want to do? You still enjoying it? Do you still look good? You got more things to accomplish? Or are you going to meet somebody, settle down, do the second half of your life, you know, and really enjoy it in that sense? Like, it's really up to you. But let's add women into this. Okay, so there's a lot going on, so I apologize about that, guys, but we have the blue line to separate everything. So I described everything else to you, but what we have here, the same line from women, meteoric rise, get to 18, and naturally we can see whether this guy is on the male advantage curve or not. Look at the gap. These women here have egos off their teeth. Okay, they're thinking that their shit doesn't stink. This guy's going to be a future multi-millionaire. They're looking at him like he's just some bum on the street. Okay, oh, you don't deserve me. I'm too good for you. Why are you even talking to me? Oh my god, go away. Like, that's when you get all of that shit, okay? It's pathetic, it's embarrassing, but look, you have a fucking meteoric rise like that. How are you going to learn anything? So I don't blame women. It's not really their fault. But we have peak value from women, 18 to around about 26 years old, 27 years old, when the male kind of exchange happens here. And that's when, personally, I'm 28. This is around about these 25, 26, 27, this bracket here. This is the first sign I saw of hot women when I was growing up becoming not as hot anymore, okay? They started to decline, didn't look as good. They become slightly more complete. I actually prefer them. My perfect bracket for women is like 25 to 29. I kind of find those women most attractive because they're slightly on the decline, which isn't the best, but they're becoming more humble. Maybe they've sorted their life out a little bit better. You know, these women are just pathetic to talk to, in my opinion, in my experience, should I say. Don't really enjoy talking to them. They kind of annoy me. Whereas women 25 to 29, I just prefer them. That's my type of woman. You know, if they've been in the gym, they can maintain themselves a little bit longer, then, you know, that's fantastic. I'll take that if I'm already like here, if I'm that age. If there's like a 10-15 year age bracket, that's not too bad. Because when I'm 50, like when I've dropped down here and she's still like there, that's not bad, guys. And you know, I can handle that. I can take that. That's pretty decent. She's still above average. You still have high value because of my wealth, but you know, and fitness and whatever, I can keep that going, but that's still not bad. If I'm 50 years old and I've got like a 34-year-old, 33-year-old woman who's still kind of smoking hot, she's still in like the high bracket, should I say? She's still up here. She's just the lower end of high, but she's like mid-30s, and that's not too bad, okay? You know, if you're really ambitious, I mean, you could be with a woman that's like here. Sometimes you can pull it off, whatever. But that's not too bad, okay? In terms of having things in common, I don't think that's too bad right there. But yeah, we get this exchange, like I said. It happens here, where a woman's value begins to plummet. The man comes up. This is physical kind of prowess. It comes into its prime. The woman starts to decline in general, because there's women in general, they're valued on one thing, which is sex appeal, which is a shame for women. But you know, if you look at Oprah, okay, she's a billionaire, nobody cares. She's not attractive in many guys' eyes, okay? She's not traditionally attractive, so it doesn't work the same for women, which is a shame for women. But at the same time, they do get to experience this and this without putting any work in, whereas a man has to wait like 10, 15 years and catch loads of shit in order to get to that same point. So swings and roundabouts, really. And I didn't make the rules. And that's why I think older men with younger women, I think kind of 36 and that there, about 26, I think it just works really well. You know, anything around about that range, I just think that's, you know, the perfect pair off, really. Those two people are ready for the same things. And then we come down here, and this is when so many guys start questioning why they're with this woman. So they might settle down here because they're at their peak value as a man. They're kind of not peak value as a man, but they're starting to go up in the world. Their wealth's about to blow. Maybe a woman spotted an opportunity with this guy. She thinks, okay, he's going to skyrocket up here. I can tag along for the ride. Maybe she's building her own empire and they can do it together. But as we said, their value is valued very much on sexual value. So as a woman begins to decline and she gets to here, the man, you know, his fitness was up here. So in terms of sexual value, those two were quite even during this point. So it worked really well. This man had a young, beautiful woman on his arm. But then the problem is his wealth starts to come up. So he meets her here. So now he's at this point where his wealth is coming up. He's in shape. And he's still only 32 years old, which as a man is a baby. Okay, he's only just got started. He's only been in the male advantage for 2 years. He's probably getting a ton of female attention outside of his marriage relationship, whatever. She's talking about kids. She's talking about... he probably got a mortgage at this point based on that other video I did on 27 being the most dangerous age. But she's talking about the first child, maybe the second child, you know, and he's just stuck here just thinking, fuck's sake, I kind of want to go up here and enjoy my life. And these sort of women are really eyeing him up and looking at him, and he's thinking, if I backed out of this relationship, I could go and get these young women again, have all the money in the world and still be in great shape, you know, kind of all as a combination. I know that wasn't in a row, but as a combination, he's eyeing up this. He's eyeing up the peak value being with a woman like that and tying it all together at the same time, because he can attract better women there. So, you know, naturally there would be levels to this if there was multiple women, like tens, eights, 9s, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, 5, like, and so on, okay? It would follow this exact same line, but it would just start higher. But I'm just doing a baseline in general. But then this guy moves along, he gets to around about this stage, and if they haven't broken up already, they definitely will here, because this is, like I said to you guys earlier, around about there. Okay, so she's fallen through this male advantage age bracket where if a man was at this point now and then he dropped below, he would be below par. Okay, he would be below where he needs to be. So this woman drops below this. She's fallen into the average bracket now. She's 36 years old, roughly. The man's 36, and this gap will never be greater as long as he's worked on himself in these stages here. So as long as he's worked really hard on himself, this gap will never be bigger between a man and a woman who got together at roughly the same age, which is what tends to happen, you know. When you meet each other here, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. The woman knows what's coming next for her. The man has no idea what's coming next for him. You get together here, and then ultimately you both regret it here. Well, he regrets it here, and then she regrets being divorced. But the caveat to that is any women in this bracket are lovely to be around. Okay, so as much as these young women are entitled and little princesses, which annoys me, you know, I'm a queen. This queen is princess treatment only. Like, shut up. You get down to this bracket here, and these women are lovely. I get on so well with all these women. Any women over the age of around about 35, they're so nice. They're so nice because they go through maybe their first divorce, they look in the mirror, they don't look like they used to, and they become humbled, as men do along this journey. And that's why the majority of men mature a lot quicker than women. Not in the early years, women mature a lot quicker up to this point because they're just exposed to more stuff. But once you get to this point, a man just kind of outmatures the woman. He's just, you know, the struggle makes him what he is. And that's why so many women want to be with men within this male advantage bracket here, because they're just on another level, which a woman will learn here. She will learn those skills here. She couldn't possibly learn them here. You know, she might learn them in that bracket as she declines, but until she becomes average and people don't give a shit about her anymore like they used to, you just can't learn the lessons that the man had to learn when he was rising up this ladder, you know, up to around about the age of 30 before things started to turn for him. You know, look at that gap. A 30-year-old man is so ranked so below an 18-year-old girl. You know, all the value in the world, worked very hard, and he's on his way up. You know, he's in fantastic shape here, and his wealth is coming up, but she's still way higher. You know, look, she's 18 years old and beautiful. Like, you can't really compete with that. It's very, very tough to do. But here, like I said, this bracket, all the women that I know that are this age, I get on with. They're so nice. They understand the male struggle because now they've been through their own, been through a couple of divorces. They don't look like they used to. So they start working on other qualities, and it's very attractive in a sense. You know, it's very attractive in a mental stimulation manner. Like, I have so many female friends that are in this bracket because I just really respect them. because I know that they understand exactly what I've been through up to this point. I'm 28 years old. They really get it because we're in the same boat. Look at the curves. Look at the curves. They're basically the same fucking line. Look, it's basically the same thing in terms of wealth. And their fitness is different because there's youth. But, you know, in terms of wealth, which is wealth is probably the most important asset for a man, or the trait for a man. And beauty is probably the most important one for a woman. Just, it's not me saying that. It's just the nature of the world. Now, these lines are very, very similar. And these two people really understand each other's struggle. That's why these people here, single mums, are a lot of the time. That's why they, you know, I'm not saying, oh, they raise boys really well, but they understand it. They do understand these young guys, what they're going through. You know, if you're like 16, 18, you can't get a girl, your mum here can sympathize. She's got some decent information to feed over to you, okay? And obviously, naturally, a dad would just understand it because he's going through that. But this is why it's a great age here for mothers. You know, not to have a child, but to be raising the child. So if she's had a child like here, that's why it's good for women to have kids early, you know, that sort of thing. The kid's about 12, 13, 14, 15 here. Kind of makes sense, right? All ties together. But the man at this point, you know, his fitness is going to carry on until a certain point where you just can't really fight it anymore. And then when he hits 50, which is kind of, you know, the end of the male advantage, it's, apologies, there's an email, guys, the end of the male advantage, and it starts to decline steadily. But, you know, you don't really hit average here as a man, as long as you're in the gym, keeping yourself in shape, until you're like late 50s. There's plenty of guys that have managed to stay in shape up to that point, but 50 is kind of the end of the male advantage, where you're not really elite level anymore, where it's, you know, you're not as attractive as you were up here. That's just natural, okay? But your wealth can continue. So that's something you can really enjoy. You can do that, it can go like that, and then it can peak again, because obviously you've got more time when the kids leave home. You know, there's little things like that, okay? But naturally, you know, you can keep that up for as long as you want, up to a certain point. So some guys can keep it to there. Most guys keep it to around about there, which is like 44, 45. And then naturally they start losing a little bit of muscle mass. You know, you get on TRT, whatever, you can maintain up until around about there. That's when you get some guys that are like in their mid-50s and they're a stud, okay? Like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like, this is The Rock. But obviously wealth is way higher and probably fitness is way higher. He's obviously on steroids and whatever, and he's kept it up at this level. You know, there's differences to the rule, but just as a general rule, this is pretty much the line that most guys will follow, okay? With it obviously being a cross-section at that point for the peak male advantage, but this ultimately is the male advantage. Avoid this at 27, because that's going to happen. All your friends are going to get divorced at that point. They're gonna, all their girlfriends, ex-wives, whatever, are gonna remarry some lower level guy. This is when these lower level guys get their chance. So they come in here and they swoop them up, and you're gonna skyrocket off if you don't go off with all of that at this point with a woman that's about here, and both of you are gonna probably have equal value, moving across and then plummeting down as you get older, which isn't really a problem at that point, and that's why the timeline works perfectly. If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio.